welcome to another episode of Our Point of View Talk Show. We are so glad that you guys can join us this evening on Facebook Live. Today, we are going to be talking about opioid addiction. Yeah, we're going to be talking about opioid addiction. It's something that everybody needs to know about. The information we're getting ready to give out, I didn't even know. I was totally shocked. But before we start, I want to introduce our hosts. We have with us today retired Captain Eric Jackson. Hey, Eric, how are you?
What's going on? How is everybody doing? Everyone's looking smiles, everyone smiles.
It's a new year. It's a new year.
Yes, it is. Happy New Year to everybody, too.
And we have with us Miss Connie Abraham. Connie.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Facebook family, OPOV family and friends. Welcome to another Point of View.
It's our point of view. And our special guest back with us again is Dr. Centrell Crawford. Welcome. You're in Pennsylvania now, right?
I'm in Pennsylvania now.
Is it still snowing up there?
Oh yes, it is still snowing. I'm just not. I've never gotten used to it. I wasn't smart this time. I'm usually not here at this time, but I'm almost out of it. I'm going to Mexico in a week.
Alrighty then, Mexico. Okay.
So
well, it's snow in Pennsylvania. We tried to get it here last weekend in Atlanta. It didn't get here. Well, at least not in Atlanta, but supposedly coming up this weekend.
It looked pretty falling.
Say that again.
I said it looked pretty falling, but that was about it.
It did, but it wouldn't stick.
Nah.
It didn't stick.
you don't want it to stick. You don't want it to.
We really don't.
I'm up north. I'm used to the snow. You know, I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh.
You know, we northern girls, so.
But I've been in Atlanta now for 26 years, so keep it up.
I'm California, and the weather is very disrespectful.
The weather does what it wants to do. Well, we're going to start talking about opioid addiction. So, Doctor, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us a little bit about your background so everybody will understand how you're able to explain to us about opioid addictions.
Okay, I'm Dr. Centrell Crawford. I'm a psychiatrist, and also I specialize in addiction. I've been a psychiatrist for the last 10 years. I've mostly practiced in Pennsylvania, but I recently just added some work in Texas recently. So I go all over the state. I'm more what you call a traveling doctor. You know, you guys mostly know about traveling nurses, but there are doctors who travel from city to city to help fill a need, which is called a locums doctor. So, but I'm actually doing something a little bit more. I'm actually starting a clinic soon to actually help people who are experiencing opiate addiction go into recovery. So that clinic actually launches in a month. I signed my lease. I'm decorating. I'm getting advertisements. So I've been working with people with addiction for the last 10 years. I particularly started being focused on it about 6 years ago when I started working in Pennsylvania, which is actually hit pretty hard with opiate addiction, like most of the country. You know, we've had that issue for the last 30 years. You know, so I also have a website where I talk about addiction. I have a book called The Urge Fix, as well as a podcast with the same name, Urge Fix. You can find it anywhere on you can get your podcast at. So that's my background. I'm a psychiatrist by trade. I love working with people. I love helping people understand themselves and grow. And it's a passion of mine. And I love teaching and learning and just sharing knowledge. So that's why I come here tonight.
And we're glad you're here because we need your knowledge. We need you to share with our viewers. So we're going to start with asking first, what are opioids?
Opioid is actually a plant. So it's called opium. What is it? Opium poppy. It's a plant that you can find. We actually first started really getting if everyone knows about the Vietnam War, all of our soldiers went across to over there, and then they were injured, etc. And actually they got exposed to opioids. But when they came back, they didn't really have that many opiates here yet. So then they started going to alcohol because they had already formed an addiction. So Anyway, it comes from a plant, and actually, most people know it as a drug that affects the nervous system. You would get opioids for pain and acute or chronic pain. Usually you would get it in a medical setting, prescribed by a physician. And so it's usually helpful, for a person to get opiates because it helps pain, right? Who wants to be in pain? There's many ways you can get it. Some people get it when they have an injury. Some people get it when they have a tooth extraction or root canal. Those are the most common ways you get it. Go to the ER with abdominal pain, you may get opiates, things like that. So opiates is a plant, and we use it as a pain medication. Sometimes we can also call it a narcotic. That's maybe a term people have heard before.
So can you tell us some types of opioids?
Yeah, there's a lot of different types. So there's prescriptions and non-prescription opioids. So what most people would hear is, oxycodone. Has anyone heard of that? Vicodin.
Yes.
Fentanyl. Fentanyl is very popular right now because you can hear it in the news where people are dying from overdose of fentanyls with other drugs being laced with it. They could put it in marijuana. They could put it in Xanax. They could put it with anything you come up with. Methadone.
Wow.
Actually, that opioid is used for treatment of opioid addiction because it's longer acting. Also, you can use it for cancer pain. Also, Suboxone, buprenorphine. Has anyone heard of that? People use that also for treatment of opioid addiction. And actually, hydrocodone, morphine. The one that is not considered a prescription is actually heroin. And that's more of a street drug. You're not going to get that from a doctor.
We hope not.
Bet not.
Yeah, bet not. That would be a whole nother problem.
So is opioid the medical term for it?
Yes, opioid is the medical term for it.
Okay, and what's the street term for it?
There's several street terms. It depends on your area, depends on where you are. What street terms have you guys heard? Have you guys heard of any?
I've only heard of opioids. It's funny because as I was driving home, I looked up on a billboard and it said opioids are more popular in our community than we believe. It just had a big board right there on 285. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. We get ready to go talk about opioids because I'm about to learn because I don't know anything about it.
I'll talk a little bit about that later. That is true, actually. I'm actually surprised by that too, but we'll talk about that a little later. So some of the street terms for opioids is cotton, oxycontin, hillbilly, oxy, dope. It's sometimes called a downer. It could be called smack. And sometimes people, I think it's heroin, they call it black or black tar. So those are the terms people use. As a physician, you're always worried about causing someone more pain due to something that you do, right? So like if you're prescribing a med or if you misdiagnose, you're worried about all of those things. So I have patients sometimes when they come to me and they're asking me for medication, sometimes they could be very inappropriate. They're like, can I get some oxy? When you start using some Oxycontin, this is the funny part. Most people don't know this. If you tell me that you're allergic to Tylenol, but then you ask for hydrocodone, which has Tylenol in it, it's a red flag, because that means you don't want on something that would be considered non-addictive or over the counter. You want the good stuff, quote unquote, the heavy duty stuff, but you don't realize that actually, if you're saying you're allergic to Tylenol, most of the hydrocodones or opiates have Tylenol in it. So it's like a red flag. So coming in saying the street names to me, and also coming in telling me you're allergic to something that's actually a part of the pill would just,
So is opioid a painkiller?
Yeah, it's a painkiller.
But people get addicted to them.
Yes.
So you're not necessarily in pain, you just like the high.
No, that's not necessarily true. Some people, like their first experience, like I was saying, with opioids is because of pain or because of, like, let's say dental pain, in my opinion, because I've had a lot of dental issues, is some of the worst pain I've ever felt. So when you go to the dentist, they give you a opiate usually, because every time I got my wisdom teeth pulled out, I got an opiate. When I had an abscess removed, I got an opiate. But it's usually a short course, right? So it's for acute pain or even chronic pain, but that just depends on where you are. But when you have it prescribed for a long period of time, then that's when we start running into problems, because then your body starts being dependent on it. Then you need it for other things. Then instead of just for the pain, you just come up with pain, or you have that fictitious pain in your head that you just go grab it for relief. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So how can a person?
Why is it on the street like it is? Like, how could, if it's a
Prescribed by a doctor.
prescribed,
If it's prescribed by a doctor, how did they get on the street?
like, how does it become a street med? Like, people can get it so popular. Is it because I take opioids, so I get my prescription every month. I realize that people like it. I can get $40 per pill. So now I'm selling a pill, $40 a pill, because I'm making, twice the money. So then that's what I'm doing. And that's how people become addicted to the drug.
Yeah. So we can actually talk about that. What's your next question? I think that's
how can a person get exposed to opioids?
So the exposure comes with, like pain, whatever type of pain, or going to the hospital. It's usually not exposure, like, actually, that's not true. Also, just because it's not me, like, what if my grandmother had pain? My grandmother's a little old lady with arthritis. She may have opioids, and I'm in the house with her, and she doesn't have it locked in a box. Or maybe the doctor, my grandmother, like what you were asking, like, how do people get it? My grandmother she's an old lady. She only uses it for what the doctor prescribed. When she has pain 10 out of 10, so she uses her opiates then. But I take some and sell them. Or maybe I had a short course of opiates, but then I keep going to my doctor and saying I'm in pain. They keep prescribing me because they think I'm in pain, because pain is very subjective. I can't say if you're in pain. If you told me, Mr. Eric, I'm in pain, how am I supposed to refute that? How am I supposed to say, oh, you're not? So that's the issue doctors run into, because it's subjective. I can't measure your pain. I can't put a blood pressure cuff on you and say, oh yeah, that's pain, or there's no pain cuff or no pain testing device. So as long as you say you're in pain, well, that's kind of, I got to take it at face value.
Right.
If there's something you have an illness that can cause the pain, then I have to take it as face value. But what if that's not true? So now you have this pill that has a street value. So then you start selling it, and people, if you're struggling, that's a good source of income. You get 30, 60 pills a month. You can sell it for $10 to $15 a pill. Actually, this is not for opiates, but maybe 4 months ago, I had a woman who, she wasn't on Xanax. It's a benzo. It's a different drug. She told me I was knocking her hustle. I was messing up her cash flow. That's literally what she told me. And I'm like, well, that's not real. My job is not to, I'm not prescribing you medicine for you to go sell it. Like, that's not my job, and she was mad, but you don't need this. You're literally sitting here telling me, like, if I prescribe this and anyone found out, I might as well have, had a bonfire with my license.
Right. I'm saying now your license is online.
So, so there's a lot of ways people, it has street value. $8 to $15. How much times 60?
Yeah.
I'm 60. That's somebody's rent. My grandmother doesn't need it, or I tell my doctors that I have pain and he gives me the prescription or she gives me the prescription. I mean,
Okay, so
How can a
say,
doctor, how can a doctor control the use of opioids?
well,
How can I mean, because they're the ones that are giving you these pills, this med. So how is it that they can control it? Because when they give it to you, do you have refills on it?
usually not. You
Then
can't.
that's not.
Well,
So,
before, but the laws have changed, right? Before you would get a refill.
Mhm.
Some doctors would give you a refill. Some doctors would still give you a refill. They won't give you as many as it used to be because now we're a little bit more on alert. But let's say you get, so another reason why pain is so subjective also, like when we get a headache, right? I take a Tylenol, but my headache might come back. So I might need another Tylenol.
Mhm.
How many pills am I getting? I can get, even with opiates, I can get 2 to 3 pills a day. When we're prescribing.
but instead of taking all these pills, shouldn't we find out what the cause is of the headache and try to work on that as opposed to just trying to put a Band-Aid on it by taking the pills?
Well, sometimes the workup takes a while, right? Take a while. Like working up a patient, trying to diagnose something takes a while. So let's say you came in with me to me and you had, well, the injury is different, but let's say you had a headache. A headache workup could take some time. I have to get an MRI. I have to get a scan of your brain, or maybe have to try some medication. What do I want you in pain until we figure out what's going to work for you? When I can give you something that can help you
in the moment,
in the
right,
moment. I want you to be comfortable.
right.
I don't want you to be uncomfortable while we try to figure out what's causing the headache. Right?
Right.
And
But
there too,
sometimes
you
it could be a
prescribe me
person
the drug.
dehydrated. Sometimes it could be a person dehydrated. They need to drink more water. They need to eat. They need to stop eating certain foods like salt or pork or something. But
And all of that's in the diagnostic workup, but you still have to go through it, and the person still may be in pain. So
Right, so if I walk to Dr. Cantrell's office and my back is killing me, right? We don't know why my back and my head is aching. Doc, please, can you just help me with this pain? I haven't slept in the last 48 hours. I need something just to ease the pain. So Doc gonna turn around and say, okay, I got you. She prescribes me the opioids. I take the opioid, the pain is gone. I'm like, oh, thank God. Woo!
a few hours. It's gone for a few hours. It's not gone completely. So it's going to come back. So you need to fix the initial problem instead of just taking pills all the time. How do we fix the problem?
No, it won't just be given opioids. We would also send her for imaging. And if we
Right.
find something, then we'll send her to an orthopedic surgeon. But she still is taking these pills because
Is that how they're getting addicted to them? Is that how they're getting addicted?
Yeah, because they're still having to take this pill because it takes a while to work up, right?
And if it takes 3 weeks for my paperwork, if it takes 3 weeks for them to diagnose me, you know what I mean? But in the process of them doing my diagnosis, me getting my MRI, me going to get this test, get that test, in the process now, I've got at least 3 weeks of opioids, you know what I mean? And it's making me feel good. Hey, I'm good till they call me in to find out what else is wrong with me. But in that moment, the opioid is helping to ease that pain. And most times when we in pain, we want the pain to be eased, really.
Yeah.
We want the pain to go away.
So a way a doctor can stop it is having good communication with the patient, making sure the patient is not susceptible to substance abuse history, right? Making sure the patient is not currently using abusive substances, and if the person is being worked up, make sure that you are making sure they're following up with whatever they need to do so you can get them off quickly.
Right. And hopefully there's a whole entire plan, if you will, to remedy the pain. Because like I said, if it wasn't an opiate, let's say it was Percocet, you're only getting a few of those anyway. You're not getting a whole bunch of those.
Yeah. You're not getting the whole bunch, but no.
So Percocet is the opioid too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Because it's a narcotic.
So wait a minute. Okay, back up.
Can you tell us what are some of the prescription opioids? Can you tell us some of those?
Yeah. I'll repeat them. Oxycontin, Percocet, morphine, fentanyl, methadone, hydrocodone, Suboxone, and like a couple of years ago, the FDA put tramadol on it, and morphine. So those are some of the prescriptions.
So they all fall under the umbrella of opioid.
Yes.
So when we say opioids are infiltrating our community, it doesn't necessarily mean just opioid. It can be any one of those that you just named.
Well, they all are. So yeah, it could be any one of those.
Gotcha.
So are there some non-prescription opioids?
The only one is heroin.
Heroin is an opioid, but it's non-prescription.
Yeah, and also there's synthetic fentanyl. What's wrong?
Ain't nobody giving you no prescription for no heroin, okay?
They are, but trust me, they are not doctors.
Well, now they're doing it now.
Gosh.
Wow. Wow.
Very interesting.
Definitely not. They might be doctors.
So how long will it take a person to get to become addicted to this? So it depends on, what does it depend on for a person to get addicted to it?
So it really just depends on the person, right? So there's some warning signs or some risk factors that can cause a person to be more susceptible to addiction, such as like family history of addiction, any type of addiction, whether it's gambling, alcohol, cocaine, whatever type of addiction that they could possibly have in their family. If they themselves are addicted to another substance, like if they're an alcoholic, even caffeine, like let's not pretend that people are not drinking 8 Monsters and 20 cups of coffee a day.
Right.
And other risk-taking behaviors, because they like the thrill, right? They like pretty much addiction hits your reward system. It releases more dopamine in your body, so if you're a thrill seeker, maybe you'll be more addicted. Also, people who have undiagnosed mental illness, right? So those are risk factors, right? So.
Okay, so you told us about the risk factors. What are the side effects? What are some of the side effects of the opioids?
Well, it depends on which side effects are you talking about. Are you talking about withdrawal or are you talking about overdose?
Let's talk about overdose. Let's talk about both of them, but let's talk about, the overdose, because when they're using them as a street drug or a recreational drug, they're using them to get high, correct?
Right.
If you take too much of it, you can, you overdose on it.
Right. So the overdose for opiates is what's going to kill you. Withdrawal from opiates is not going to kill you. Overdose people are like, they're sedated, they're unconscious, they're not breathing well, they have really shallow breathing, their pupils are small, they're not responding to us, right? So the way you treat those folks are you give them naloxone, which is an Narcan, exactly. You give them Narcan, which comes in injectable form, or you can give it as a nasal spray to get the opiates off the receptors to try to revive them. If that doesn't work, you have to give them supportive care, such as mouth to mouth, intubate them, things like that. I don't understand drug dealers. And I think I said this the last time. They actually, like if I had a customer, I'm not trying to kill them, but they be lacing stuff and giving them. It's like, Jesus, like the fentanyl issue, like you're gonna die if fentanyl is bad. Don't do it. Anyway, so another thing is like with drug addiction, it's like a very unsafe thing to do. Like one of the ways that, most common ways I've gotten patients is when they're overdosed and their friends brings them to the ER and kicks them out the car and speeds off. It's like, Like, what kind of friend is that? And then you get them better if they survive it, right? Guess who's coming to pick them up?
Your
That
friends.
same friend.
Going back to the same thing.
They're not even trying to get you into the door to make sure someone picked you up. They just throw you out the car, and hope that you and on the other side of that, withdrawals. I was in Philly last week in the crisis unit, and there was about 10 people who came in with opiate withdrawals, and they were miserable. They are so dramatic. They always think they're about to die. And, so when you're getting into withdrawals, overdose is pretty much when you take too much.
Right.
Whatever your tolerance level is, you went overboard, right? Withdrawals, you took some and you stopped it, and it can actually happen within 6 to 12 hours from the last dose, and it really peaks 2 to 3 days.
Wow.
They could last for a week, right? So the person has a runny nose, they have muscle aches, they have GI issues, they're vomiting. And the worst part is the diarrhea, because they're just this loose bowels. When they get chills, goosebumps, headaches, mood swings. They're very tired. They're just sleeping. They're just sleeping the entire time. And actually with that, they think that it's like we're supposed to give them something to make them feel better, but it's really the supportive care. Give them Imodium when they're diarrhea, give them Tylenol with the muscle ache, and helping them sleep. We sometimes give them clonidine, which is just a blood pressure med that has a sedating experience. Sometimes, depending on if you're some people, but not, I don't do it, can give them actually Suboxone and then taper it down slower than what, coming off the opiate so quickly. So it's not going to kill them though. Withdrawal is not the issue. It's really the overdose.
So let me ask you, how, at what age group does this community affect? Is it the young people, or is it the older people that you find that are more so addicted to it, or maybe overdose on this kind of drug? Is there an age group, like are young people into it, or is it 25 to 30, or is it just all across the board?
It's all across the board. It's all
so young people like 16, 17, 18 doing opioid.
My youngest person in treatment for me was 18, and he had just turned 18, and he had been using for 2 years. And he was
he got it from his parents, or I'm just assuming, he got it from somebody who had the pain pills, and he was just able to get them from there.
So he had an injury. I think he was a football player, if I remember correctly. He was a sports player. He had an injury. He got the pills from there initially, but then, he liked it. He liked the way it made him feel. So then he started stealing from his grandmother. He started stealing from his parents if they had medicine. And then he just started buying it off the street.
Yeah.
So is there an age limit for doctors to prescribe opioids to people? Like, do you have to be like 18 and over, or 21 and over? Or, is there an age limit, or do they just, whoever's in pain? You could be 5 years old and you're in pain. They're going to give you some type of opioid that's going to work towards your body and your age and your size. There's no age restriction.
There's no age restriction because, pain can affect anyone. Think about Black community. One of the most common ways a person gets exposed from being a Black person would be a sickle cell crisis.
Right.
Right?
Yep. Wow. So let me go back, and when you're talking about fentanyl, you talked about synthetic drugs. What is the difference between a synthetic versus just a type of opioid in its natural form?
Well, synthetic means more like, well, I guess they all could be synthetic, but because when I say synthetic, when I was using it in that way, I meant when they're cooking it in their kitchen.
Gotcha. So more of a homemade type of situation. Okay.
I was reading an article maybe last week. In Louisiana, this guy got busted with his girlfriend with fentanyl ingredients,
Mm-hmm.
a commercial sized pill farmer. I think they called it something, commercial sized pill cutter, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like $500,000 worth of methamphetamines. Like, and they were rolling in the dough. They had a big operation. They're going to jail for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, that was what intent.
Intent, possession.
And the list goes on, right?
List goes on. I mean, that was a bust. That they had a lot of merchandise.
So how is the opioid dependency affecting America?
So it actually affects America and most other countries a lot, because actually 2 million people in America are addicted to opioids. In the world, 16 million. So with that number, that's a large number, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it costs about $150 billion to treat them. Rather it's medical care, rather they're incarcerated, rather they're in outpatient treatment. And also think about all the people we're losing for productivity. They're not producing tax revenue. They're not working. They're not productive. They're just, you know, people who need help, who are actually pulling from the system. You know, they're also taking, robbing, theft. So it's like $150 billion cost to us for 2 million people.
Yeah.
And actually, what is it? Since 1999, I think it was 1 million people have died from opiates use. It was so bad in West Virginia at one time, the government was paying for their funerals, and then they were running out of space to bury them.
So along those lines, you know, almost everything has a statistical component associated with it. There's some sort of number. If it's homelessness, if it's inequities in the job market, economics, whatever it is, there's a number associated with it. With opioids, is there a statistical number associated with that with respect to a particular segment of the population that uses it the most or has the highest number of ill effects to them? And I'm talking Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Pacific Islander, whatever you want to, whatever particular ethnic group you want to associate with it. Is that sort of number out there with, because you were very clear in saying that, you know, opioid usage or of that nature is everywhere, not particularly in one place.
So I was actually very shocked by this answer. It's actually Connie kind of alluded to with the billboard she ran across, that in Atlanta, you know, Atlanta has a huge number of African Americans that is in our community more than you think. So a few years ago, you can say this is a white drug, right? You know, in my treatment program, I mostly only see white people. I ain't gonna lie. It's like, you know, I don't see a lot of Black people in my program. And when I was doing the research for this answer to this question, I was surprised. You know, in general, it's across all racial, ethnic groups and ages, right? But the most common people are Blacks, 45 to 54.
Wow.
The number is 70%.
Wow.
And
that's
you know
high.
Yeah, the numbers for Caucasian is 54. Hispanic is 56. And I actually had trouble digesting this because, you know, when I sit and treat people, I don't see many African Americans in my office. So when I was reading more of the article I was reading, actually they talked about cultural competency and actually education within the Black community about opioids and about awareness and about treatment options, because they're the ones dying, right? You know, they're the ones using it. And the one reason why what they hypothesized was because of fentanyl. You know, there's so much stigma, and I ain't gonna lie, you know, there's even research within the medical community about, you know, the racial divide or the racial disparities between when a Black person goes to a doctor versus a white person. You know, the likelihood of you getting a prescription med was very slim, right? But now we have it on the streets. We have people selling it for $15 a pop. We have people making it in their kitchen or trying to make it. We have other ways to get the opioids, and now it's going into our communities. And we're not even paying attention because we're thinking about crack. We're thinking about marijuana.
Right.
You know, we're not thinking this. This is what's killing us. You know, I mean, as I'm not going to say that, but you know, there's jokes about people on cocaine and how long they live. You know, but opioids, you know, you can get a 23-year-old person just dead.
Yeah.
54-year-old person just dead. You know.
And I think that that's why it's important that we inform the community about these kinds of drugs, and even to know the different kinds that fall up under opioid, because like for me, I was totally oblivious to, I thought opioid was just opioids. Like I didn't know that all of these different things fall up under the umbrella of the opioids. So in our community, of course, what we don't know, we don't know. You know what I mean? And so the conversations aren't really being had about this drug or these drugs that are being passed around in our community, even around amongst our young people. You know what I mean? So because now I do remember there was a few years back, I work in a high school, and I remember when I think Xanax was like the big drug among high schoolers. You know what I mean? I was sending my boys all this information, like stay away from, don't be taking them from nobody, don't be smoking everybody weed, you don't know what's in it, they be mixing it with Xanax, because I actually saw students who were like, had Xanax, and they had overwhelming strength, right? And then they were just like going bananas, like going wild, like, you know what I mean? It was like a big, huge thing. But to hear about opioid, I heard of it, but I didn't know, like I said, that it was, you know, all these different other things fall up under the umbrella of being constituted as an opioid drug.
So Xanax, the umbrella for Xanax, you know, I guess the best way to say what an opioid is, like we have fruit, right? There's fruit, there's apples, there's oranges, there's bananas. So opioids is fruit, and then there's, you know, short acting, long acting, you know, recovery. You know, you have the Vicodin, the oxycodone, you have the methadone, you have the Suboxone, the tramadol, the morphine, the Dilaudid. You know, there's a whole bunch of names, right? The heroin, the fentanyl. So there's just a whole bunch. You got to know what it is. So, and also, you know, you got to talk to your doctor. What are you giving me?
Yeah.
You know, like, what is this for? I mean, whatever it is, whether it's for blood pressure, whether it's for cholesterol, whether for heart failure,
whether it's for Omicron. Okay.
Whether it's for Omicron, you know, you know, whatever it's for. What is it? You know, and I think people, and this is one thing I try to work on, is making sure my language to my patients is not too up there, you know, because sometimes, you know, all I'm thinking about is getting through. I got 15 minutes. You have 15 minutes and I will spit everything out to you. You better tell me what's wrong with you, and I'll spit everything out, and then I have to go to the next person. You know, but you have a right to say, well, what is this? How is it going to affect me? And they're supposed to tell you. We actually are supposed to tell you this.
Yeah.
So there's that. And people sometimes get intimidated by the white coat, right? So I try not to wear mine very often because it's intimidating. It puts, I mean, you need to distinguish yourself as getting glory, you know.
You should be afraid of your doctor. You should, that's one person you should be able to talk to because they're treating whatever is ailing you. They're treating your body. So it's like you need to have good communication with them so you can find out what it is that they're giving you, what it is they're doing for you. And so that if you're in some kind of pain or something, you should be able to just call to their office and be able to talk to them. Don't be like, well, my next appointment is not until March, so I got to wait until then and maybe I can go see them. No, you need to have a conversation with them too. Find out what are some of the side effects of these opioids. What do they do to your body? Do they turn your skin colors? Do they turn your nails color? Do they make your teeth fall out? What are they? That's my question. What do they do? What are the side effects?
I mean, the side effects. I mean, well, they could make your teeth fall out. That's true.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, so it could cause sedation. It can cause, it could make your teeth fall out. That's true. I mean, there's a long list of things that it causes, but those are uncommon. The biggest one I worry about is if you do get addicted to it, right, and you overdose, like the shallow breathing, it causes constipation, and if you're withdrawing from it, it's going to cause diarrhea, those type of things. It makes your pupils small.
Pinpoint, yep.
Yeah, it can make your nose run, can make you taste what is that? Metal in your mouth.
Metal. Wow. So
those are some of the side effects. But there's a whole long list, right? So again, runny nose, small pupils, funny taste in your mouth. It could make you lose teeth, but that's a long process.
You got to be on that thing for a minute.
You gotta be on it for a minute. It could cause.
Well, that's like anything you take. I mean, even people who smoke cigarettes, it gives you a long list of the consequences of you smoking, but that don't stop people from smoking. You know what I mean? Any other drug that you take, even if you go to the hospital, can cause drowsiness, can cause dizziness, can cause heart palpitation. Well, sir, ma'am, help me, please. I don't want none of the above. So what can you give me? I mean, all the drugs that we take always have some kind of side effect or possible side effect that you could get from taking that drug. But a lot of times people be like, oh, well, it's going to take my pain away. You know what I mean? Or it's going to make me feel better. So, hey, I'm all right with it.
So let's talk a little bit about some preventions. How can opioid misuse be prevented?
First, you need to take the medication as prescribed. Like, that's the biggest thing. Right. What is it for? So, like, talking to your doctor, what is this for? It's for pain. Okay. That's what I'm taking it for. I'm not taking it for my anxiety. I'm not taking it to sleep. I'm not taking, some people do this. I'm not taking it. I think that'll be the most anxiety, sleep, depression, but it's for pain. So take it for pain, Also, don't take mom's medicine, right?
Right.
People do this all the time. Like, I had a guy call me in the other day. He's like, oh, I was with my friend. I had so much anxiety. He gave me Xanax. Now I want Xanax. I was like, no, it's not how it works.
Not how it works.
Nope.
So, or make sure, especially if you have family members and you have that medication in your home, if you no longer need it, there's no reason for you to have it, dispose of it. I actually, when I was thinking about this, talking about this, I was thinking about when I was a kid. There was always what was that? Amoxicillin, the pink amoxicillin in my grandmother's refrigerator. And her name was on it. If she thought we had a cold, everybody getting it. You open it, it had that pink crust on it, and then it's
yes.
No expiration date.
Right.
It's like throw it out. So dispose of the medication in the proper way and only use it for what it is, because if you don't, and also only use it for a short period of time. The longer you're on it, the more likely you're going to develop a physical dependence.
Mhm.
And your body's going to think you need it, and then your mind's going to think you need it, and every time you think about it, or it's going to be what is called as a craving. Everything is going to be about getting that, because you got to have it. Now you have a craving. Now your body thinks that it needs it. You have a little. Well, actually, if you bump your toe at the end of the bed, that actually hurts. But
Hurts real bad.
Right.
any little ache is you're going to be pulling at that medicine. So
Right.
don't tease yourself. Get rid of it. If it's no longer needed, you've been pain free for a week or two, get rid of it. Don't be like my grandma and keep the amoxicillin in your icebox.
Well, how do we get rid of it? How do we dispose of unused opioids?
Yeah, I looked that up. So there's several ways. So
Don't to your friends.
And don't bring it to the fire station.
Don't bring it.
They bring it to the fire station to get rid of?
They bring everything to the fire station, food and pills.
Hilarious.
Well, it's probably safer with you guys than with them. But anyway, so all right, if it's unused, if it's expired medication, there are several ways you can get rid of it. So we can find a take back site or location within your community. It's called Take Back Site. So Google that. If you're really desperate, just take it to the pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you can go to the FDA and they have a flush list, right? A list that you can flush it down the toilet. And actually, every opiate was on the list. Flush it down the toilet. And you know why they say they worry about environmental stuff, but actually they worry more about misuse and addiction and people dying of overdose. So they just said flush it down the toilet. Don't throw it in the trash, because
I can get to it.
Someone else could get to it. And if I had a friend, her mom had pain, her mom died, and her mom really wasn't into pain meds, but her doctor kept prescribing, and her family knew that. So when my friend went to clean up the house, her family were sitting outside waiting for her to bring the trash bags out.
With all the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And I can tell you when I was going through my medical situation, and I mentioned it before about the Percocet, because I had a prescription of it. I knew that after that first pill, I had never had it before. I was like, ooh, ooh, Percocet. I'd be ashamed of myself. It fixed all kind of stuff that wasn't even wrong. It fixed, but certainly with my background and with my knowledge of it, I knew that once I got rid of it, even way before the prescription ran out. Like I said, it was not a lot of pills in there anyway, but I just didn't want. That was one you really don't want to get out. I mean, there are some others, but that
Perks is a good one. It has good street value.
Very good street value. So I knew I needed to get rid of that one. I'm myself. So
did you bring it to the fire station?
Absolutely not. I took it to my healthcare provider. They actually had a little drop box in the pharmacy, and I put it in there.
Yeah.
But why you can't just put them down the sink?
Well, it's flush down the toilet, put it down the sink. Yeah, you can. It's on the flush list.
Now,
some medicine
now,
on the flush list, you can't flush it down the toilet for some reason.
But you do mention that since you mentioned the flush list, that implies that there's some that you can flush and some that you can't. Mm-hmm. So what are the ones that you can't, and why can't you?
Well, I don't know the name.
Okay.
Most of the opiates I spoke of, most of the opiates I saw, most of the drugs on the list were opiates.
Mm-hmm.
So particularly look for that. But it will be environmental safety issues.
Okay. I thought you were going to say because of the environment, that they would prefer, having something to do with the earth and the environment.
It's an environmental safety issue.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Dr. Central, what about if you have a family member or a friend who's an addict? How do you help them?
Yeah. So actually, I was recently at a pool game, and I was actually Dog the Bounty Hunter was there, and I actually asked him a question. He had a family member who had uh, substance abuse, and he said, you know, you can love them to death, right? So with that, I'll say he's right because um, people try to like coddle their family members or don't want to hurt their feelings or don't want to, you know, don't talk about that. He's okay. Just let him sleep it off. You know, let him sleep it off. It's okay. But what you really should do is educate yourself about addiction yourself before you confront them, right? Before you not confront, that sounds hostile. Before you have the conversation, like, you know, you need help. You know, you need to educate yourself and make sure you're prepared. And then also you need to support, have other people in your family who love them as well, and maybe even someone who can reach them better than you. Have the conversation with them. But you know, don't give in to all their needs. You know, don't let them call you like, I just need $5, you know, my rent's due. You know, unfortunately right now my family is dealing with my brother having a substance issue, you know, and he called me, his birthday is around Christmas. He called me, I gave him a birthday gift. But then he sent us a picture, I mean, not a picture, a video of him high as a kite. Did I help him in that situation? You know, did I make it worse? So he called a week later and I told him, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not giving you money. So don't feed into it. I'm not saying if he's hungry, we could go eat.
We're gonna buy some food.
Right.
Oh, you calling me and say, oh, I need some shoes? Let's go buy some shoes.
Right.
You know, but I'm not going to just give you the money because then you have you can do what you want with it and it might not be good for you. So, you know, make sure that you understand what addiction is. Make sure that you're the best person to communicate with them about seeking help and have the resources for them to get the help. Right?
So what are some of the resources for people who are addicts who want to get help? Where can they go?
They can go several. Actually, I got a number. I went to SAMHSA, which is substance use addiction, mental health, substance abuse association. There's a number 1-800-662-HELP. 1-800-662-HELP. Or also, what you can do is, depending on the state of the person, because there's different stages, right? If they're high, you know, take them to the ER. You know, and if they're ready, take them to the ER. Then they could be put into a program. They could be put into a detox program. They'll see somebody like me, a psychiatrist who can evaluate them and ask them, well, what do you want? You know, do you want to go to a rehab? Do you want help? You can go there for 28 days, maybe even longer. You know, do I need to just detox you and send you back out with community resources for NA, AA, or even for you to see an outpatient psychiatrist or addiction specialist that can help you on your journey to recovery? So those are different options. But, you know, you can always also, if it's opioids and the person that's what is addicted to, I suggest if your family member is addicted to opioids, then get Narcan and put it in your house. So if they're ever over there and they're overdose, you can resuscitate them and get them the help they need. I mean,
and what is that called again?
Narcan naloxone. It's the spray and the injection I told you that reverses the opioids effects on the body. Right. And if the person is having an overdose moment, which is the shadow breathing, they're unconscious, they're not responsive, you can give it to them. If it's a nasal spray, pumping in their nose, and it could help them save their life, give them a little bit more time until the ER, the fireman, EMT comes to get them from your house. and
Now,
take them to the necessary.
where would a normal person be able to get something like that from? Would they just go to the pharmacy to purchase it, or the police department? Because I believe police officers carry those pens.
Yeah, actually,
They
there's
do.
Police officers carry those pens.
you can Google it in your local area. There's a lot of programs in the country where it actually gives it to you for free.
Okay.
So those are ways. I didn't get that resource.
But the one thing as I'm listening, and I think that it's in anything that we do, until a person realizes that they need the help, you know what I mean? It goes back to, you could take a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink, because if I don't make up in my mind that I want to be free of this drug, like I don't want to be on alcohol no more, I don't want to be, addicted to opioid, it has to be a made up mind. So I can come see you, doc, and you could offer me all of these different kind of resources, but until it's within myself that I say, enough is enough, and I've got to get me some help. Not because my wife want me to, or my child, or my mother want me to get help. I got to get help because I need help, because I want to be better as an individual. And it's not until you have made up your mind as an individual that you actually want to survive and get rid of it, come clean, however we want to term it, then that's what's really going to work. When I make up my mind that I want to change and be better.
And can I ask a question? With that being said, with Connie is saying, can family members commit their family member who is an addict to a treatment program? Are they allowed to do that? If the person doesn't want to, they're not. They can't.
They can get up and walk out. I could take them there, but if I take my child there, he's 30, he's of age, he's 40, I can't make him stay, and neither can the doctors. He'll get up and say, I'm not staying here, and walk out the door. It's nothing you could do. That's why I said the person has to make up their mind that it is something that they want to do for themselves, so that they can stay there and get the help that they need.
Although it's life and death, and everyone agrees that it's still a choice. And we cannot force that on anyone, because how long can we keep them locked up?
Right.
How long can we keep them there? And once they get out,
are they going to go back to doing what they were doing?
Right. I think, and as far as for families, and why I said, you can love them to death, is because I think families feel a lot of guilt, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of guilt and shame around, even a person with addiction can have that guilt and shame. Mm-hmm. But the family feels a lot of guilt, like if they come there, they're homeless, someone called them, they're strung out somewhere, and they have to pick them up, and they don't want them in their home because there's other people in the home. Maybe there's children, maybe there's elderly people. And when people are intoxicated or high, they could be very irrational. They could be psychotic. It could be a safety risk. So, you just got to make sure you love them from a sort of a distance.
Yeah, for real.
Offer help, know what help they can get. And once they're ready and they come to you, be willing to help. But,
right.
You got to protect yourself in that situation. And that's what I said, if you feed into it, then you could be doing just as bad if you just back away until they're ready.
Well, Dr. Centrell, thank you so much for this information. This was a lot, because I didn't know a lot about opioids. I know more now. We appreciate you so much for giving us this information. We appreciate you, and thank you so much for being here. But our time has come to an end.
Yeah, I know. I felt like we just started to roll.
I know, we're getting on the roll now. It's time to stop. But we're gonna have you back again. We're gonna definitely have you back again. Just thank you so very much.
But it was great information. Thank you, Dr. Cantrell. It was absolutely great information. And I wanted to say, she's a young doctor too. I love it. I love. I celebrate that keep on going, keep working for us. And setting that example for the young people out here to go back and help grab the hand of somebody else and help them. And then she come and talk on our show with all her knowledge, right? And we don't pay our guests. They just come with an open heart to share information with our community, with you, our viewers. And so we want to say to Dr. Cantrell, we celebrate you. Go ahead and enjoy that snow, sweetheart. Have fun.
And have a bunch of fun. And again, thank you again for coming. Your information was very impactful, and it's actually it's a ministry all within itself. So the fact that you're traveling, going to different areas is awesome. So again, thank you very much.
Oh, it's great. And I think I learned it definitely made me. I'm actually writing a book about opioids addiction. It definitely shocked me when I found that it actually is affecting our community a lot more than anyone would have thought.
Yeah. So,
if you have a family member, just share this episode with them, share it with your family and friends so that they can know, it's not a white drug,
That's right.
Well, thank you so very much once again for being on the show. We really appreciate you. And next week, it's all about the women. We're doing an all women show next week. So make sure you join us for our point of view next week. And just remember that everything you heard and everything we said was our
point of view.
Point of view.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.